Hello, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician. I thought I'd have a really quick chat about new versus old violins because it's a perennial subject. First of all, I'm a massive fan of violins, full stop. I love new violins that are well made, that do their job well, that are good tools. And I love old violins that are well made, do their job well, that are good tools, but also they kind of come with a story. You can get a new violin with a story, and that's probably a very sensible thing. I kind of specialize in making violins which I like to build a bit of a story into. For example, this one I'm just making at the moment is bog oak, which is about 4,000 years old. So there were still woolly mammoths walking on the earth when this was built, which I find quite incredible, quite frankly. When this was made, about 320 years ago, according to one particular expert, in London, in the St. Paul's churchyard, St. Paul's Cathedral hadn't been finished. They were still building it after the Great Fire of London, or still rebuilding it, should I say, to Sir Christopher Wren's new design. So when you sort of see pictures of Christopher Wren and his contemporaries, those were the sort of people who were walking past the workshop where this was made, and that's the sort of person who would have bought this. So I can't help when I play this but think of that sort of people dressed like that at that time. A very different world. And that's Eleanor Plunkett by O'Carolan. I love O'Carolan tunes, and of course he was still alive and writing music when this was built. So are old violins better? No, they're not. There's a lot of things going on which need to be discussed very quickly. So in blind tests where people in the audience have not known what violin is being played, they are not able to tell the difference, or when they have several instruments to pick from, they often will pick good new instruments in preference over Stradivariuses, for example. In double blind trials where the people playing don't know what instrument they're playing, they have a similar kind of experience. So objectively, new violins are as good, and perhaps even sometimes better, than something like a Stradivarius. But the top players choose to play Stradivariuses, Guarneris, and so on. Why? And I think there's actually a fairly simple reason. When I imagine, Sir Christopher Wren's mates walking around this sort of the partially rebuilt St. Paul's Cathedral, they were the sort of people wandering into the shop to buy things like this. I can't separate that vision from what I've got in my hands here. So I've got a bit of history here. I've got a story, a special story here. And I think that's the same why do the top players play Stradivariuses, etc.? Because they can, because all their musical heroes, some of them actually held that particular instrument that they have in their hands. So, that's a pretty powerful and wonderful thing. So, I've got a French violin that my father bought in Paris in the 1960s. And it was built in 1903 in France. My father died when he was 59. He didn't, which is before I started playing the violin. He never knew that I played the violin. And so that particular instrument has, for me, has a massive importance. And that's got a story, although it's nothing out of the ordinary as an instrument. And I think, you know, when you build in, you know, bog oak, 4,000 years old, that's got a bit of magic. You know, when people play this new violin, they'll feel something from that. I'm making a violin at the moment, well, will be shortly, for a lady in the States who lost a really nice cherry tree from the front of her house, had it planked into timber and kept it, and 8 years later is now sending it to me to make a violin out of. So that for her will have a real story. I really like to get involved talking to my clients about, you know, what violin they want, and I often ask them to send me videos of them playing and so on, so I know what I'm building for. And I like to think that just helps when that person gets a violin from me. They know that it's not just come through a factory, that there's thought about them gone into something like that. So it just helps make it a bit more special. And I think it's at the end of the day, the reason people play Stradivariuses, Guarneris, whatever, is the story, is the fact that it is special and it's got a history. And if I could afford 10 to 15 million pounds for a violin, I would have a Stradivarius, and I'd take it down to the pub with me and play at sessions on it. This one, although it's the same age, is worth a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of that. But, you know, not everyone can have one of these because there just aren't enough available. So I feel very, very lucky indeed to be playing this one, for it to be mine. It's wonderful. So where am I heading with this? In conclusion, I don't think there is a conclusion. Get a violin that means something to you. Get a violin that's good to play. Sounds great. Obviously, that's pretty important, that you like the look of, but means something to you. And whether that's because you're lucky enough to have a sort of family inheritance violin like my father's one, if you are very lucky and manage to, you know, find something like that, amazing. If you want to have something made, then get it made by someone who will be aware of who you are and create something specifically for you, or perhaps even out of materials, you know, that mean something to you. This is starting to sound like a sales pitch. It wasn't meant to. I hope there was some sense in all of this. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you feel I've made a glaring omission in the whole sort of topic, then I'll read your comments and may well address it in a later video. So anyway, that's just for what it's worth. Those are my thoughts on the subject. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Look after yourselves. Cheers, folks. Bye.